Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Asmus Collectibles 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. And yes, today is finally the day I'm taking a look at my first ever Lord of the Rings figure. Now, I still know absolutely nothing about this franchise. I know this is Legolas, it's the Battle of Helms Deep version, and he's played by Orlando Bloom in the film. But that's about it. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, well, Justin, why on earth are you reviewing it? Well, this is a production sample that was sent to me for the purposes of reviewing, so I kind of feel like I owe it to Asmus to take a look at him. Now, if you would like to pick up your very own Legolas, he is available from toyswonderland.com. I have included the link down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art for Legolas. Now, right up here on the front of the box, we do have a massive image of Orlando Bloom in costume, a Lord of the Rings logo, plus his name. On the side, his name once again, and on the back, another image of him silhouetted into the background, plus all of the relevant legal information. Now, I know what y'all are gonna say. Justin, how dare you? How have you not seen Lord of the Rings? Well, I've explained this a few times. Medieval and fantasy genre films, not really my thing. I've tried to watch them, but I just personally don't enjoy them. I don't get as immersed in the storytelling as some people do. So, please just respect that this is not a franchise that I personally am invested in, but if you are, that is totally awesome. Here we have Orlando Bloom as Legolas. First impressions, honestly, are relatively positive. I'm liking the look and feel of this guy in hand. Now, he does come with one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all of the bits and pieces that come with Legolas. Now, starting off with the display base first, it's done in the usual Asmus style. I personally really like these display bases. They're nice and slim and low profile. You've got Lord of the Rings printed on the top and a regular crotch grabber. They may be simple, but they are definitely effective. Now, you also get this outer robe. I love the material choice here. It feels almost exactly like the Hot Toys Jedi robes, nice and soft and supple with a great texture to it, and of course a super sturdy wire for the hood so you can shape it however you like. You also have a little leaf-like pendant. Do let me know if you know what that is down in the comments below. Now, as for his weapons, he does of course come with his bow and arrow. This thing looks awesome. There is a ton of sculpt work in the bow itself, it's really nicely painted, and you do have a real elastic string. Now, of course, to go along with the bow, you get a bunch of arrows, 10 to be precise. They are nice and sharp at the tip, they're painted in a gorgeous metallic gold, and you do have a little bit of sculpted detail down here for the feathers at the end. And as I said, you do get 10, so if you lose one, you've got more than enough in terms of spares. You also get a sword. You do have to apply this onto the figure out of the box. It isn't pre-installed, but it's relatively easy to do. They do provide you with an instruction sheet. Now, as for the belt, it does have a real metal buckle, so you shouldn't have anything breaking on you, and you do have some nice sculpted detail on the belt itself. It feels like this is a pleathery type piece, but it's a nice printed and stamped one. It's a very interesting texture. As for the sword itself, the sheath is done in a pretty simple flat brown, and of course you can remove the sword from the hilt. It looks awesome. I like the sculpted detail here, specifically on the hilt itself, and there is a really nice patina and wash to the hilt. Overall, yeah, I'm loving the way that blade looks. Now, he does come with even more blades, specifically two smaller ones. These are really nicely done as well. A super bright punchy silver and a metallic gold. Now, you might have been eyeing off these pieces. They are supposed to be the hilts for these smaller swords. Now, they've done a very interesting thing here. These are what you install into the sheaths on his back. You basically just plug them in, and then it provides you with the illusion of these being in the sheaths, rather than having to make them real and functioning. Maybe that's because these are a little bit thin and fragile, they didn't want to break them or scuff up the gorgeous metallic silver. Either way, it'll definitely get the job done. Now you also get a full complement of archery hands, specifically sculpted for Legolas and really nicely painted. You do have some vein work on some of them and others a little bit less so, but I do like that they are all individual, unique sculpts for each hand. They're also painted very, very nicely with a ton of skin texture. What we are going to do now though is get Legolas himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that, but I have taken the liberty of assembling the outfit in its entirety. He's now wearing his robe, I have the arrows in the quiver, the hilts in the sheath, and his various belts have been applied. It completes the look very, very nicely, and it makes it even more accurate to the film. Justin, you haven't seen the film, how would you know? Well, of course, before starting this video, I looked up a few pics of him in costume, and this is a very faithful recreation, at least I personally think so. I like the colours here, and I really like the materials here. More on that in just a second. Another thing that I really like is their choice of body. I'm pretty sure they're using the Asmus Adam body, that's what they call their true type style body. It's not too big, it's not too small, it fits the outfit and the profile of him really well. I think it's the perfect choice here. And then when you put the armor and the multiple layers of robes over the top, it accentuates it perfectly. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now, to be totally honest with you, I was prepared not to love this figure. I don't have a lot of love for the franchise, therefore I didn't know what to expect here. But, having had him out of the box for quite some time now, I can unequivocally say, from a technical perspective, this guy checks a lot of boxes. Number one, starting off with the head sculpt, I can see the likeness to Orlando Bloom here. Granted, I personally am not used to seeing him with flowing, long, luscious blonde locks and the elf ears, but in the face itself I can definitely see him. I also like the subtle furrowed brow expression, the paint applications on the skin, and the eyes look fantastic. I also love the way they've done the hair. They've basically just rooted the lower half so you get all of the benefits of the amazing crisp hairline of the sculpted part, but you also have all of the benefits of the rooted hair down below, meaning you get a ton of articulation because it'll just move out of the way. They've also integrated a braid seamlessly from the top into the rooted hair itself. Now you can move these pieces out of the way, but I personally like having them in the front there, just like you saw on the box art itself. Now, as for the outfit, there is a lot going on here. You do have to assemble most of the little belts, and you have to put his robe on, but the instructions do a great job of telling you where everything goes. I also love the color here. There are multiple different shades of green. These pieces are made out of the same material as the outer robes, very nice and soft and supple, and they do drape perfectly. That's one thing they've nailed here. The material choices are on point. The same thing can be said for these sections. They are a rubbery style plastic, but they are segmented awesomely. So that means they should nicely get out of the way when it comes to articulation. As you can see, they simply tuck in and fold under one another. That is a really awesome design. Now, one thing that I personally am not a huge fan of is how tight these gauntlets are. I wish they would sit up a little bit higher because when you go and bend the elbow, sometimes the hands do get pushed off as this gets pushed down, just like we saw from Hot Toys BVS Batman. He also has multiple layers here. You can see he's got this shiny silver style material, then he has the green section over the top, and then of course he does have his grey pants down below. They have a very interesting texture as well. They're a little bit stretchy and a very nice soft material, so when you get to bending the knees, you shouldn't have a ton of wrinkling or creasing or damage. This figure is pretty much entirely made of fabric, which definitely is a good thing. Lastly, coming down to his boots, it's my favorite, a split-cut boot design. You all know how much I love this. It's quite seamlessly integrated here. We have these sections which come over the foot itself, so it nicely hides that joint, and you have a little bit of gold inlaid into the side just to bring out some added detail. He also has a subtle wash over the crevices, just so it makes it look a little bit more weathered. Overall though, I didn't really expect to like this guy as much as I do. Now for the most out of left field comparison I have ever done on the channel, here we have Legolas standing next to the T800 Guardian. The only reason why T800 is making a cameo in this video is because he was still on my desk from a previous video. Plus, I really didn't know who else to compare Legolas to anyway. Hopefully this gives you a rough idea as to how Legolas will scale in your collection, specifically those of you out there who have an Arnie in your display. Just going over articulation on Legolas. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a fixed neck, but it still gets a ton of range of motion forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms go up on soft ratchets to about there. They will of course go forward and back, also on soft ratchets. Butterfly joint at the shoulder, there is a swivel at the bicep, a ratcheted double bend at the elbow, and of course a regular 1/6 scale style wrist peg. Now the torso does have a lot going on. There are multiple layers at play, so you don't get a ton of crunch, but you do get swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward the full way, same thing going out. Swivel at the upper thigh, a ratcheted double bend at the knee, and of course a ball joint for the ankle. Just wrapping up on Legolas from Asmus Collectibles. Now going into this, I was totally open with y'all. I know nothing about Lord of the Rings and nothing about the character of Legolas, but at this point I do like to think that I know what makes a decent figure. And this guy is exactly that, if not bordering on being great. Number one, the articulation is perfect. For an archery style character, he needs to have that split cut boot design so he can stabilize himself with a nice wide stance, and he needs to have double jointed elbows to pull off the bow and arrow poses. He can do just that. It's a really great choice. Plus, the proportions look on point. It looks like a real person. Sometimes we do get these overly stumpy, weirdly proportioned bodies. That is not this one. This one is fantastic. As for the head sculpt, I can see Orlando Bloom in the likeness. Although, being impartial, maybe I'm just looking for Orlando Bloom rather than the character of Legolas. Now, it might seem a little bit weird in me saying that, but when I review other characters from franchises that I don't really know anything about, I'm able to sit down and just look at the sculpt from a technical perspective, where sometimes if you really do love the franchise, you want it to be 99.999% there, and to some people it just isn't. Maybe this is one of those cases, but to me it's very impressive. I also like the array of accessories, and they're really nicely sculpted and painted, so overall, being my first ever Lord of the Rings figure, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Do let me know if you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to see me review more Lord of the Rings stuff, because that definitely is possible. And if you are looking to pick up your very own Legolas, he is available from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is of course down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.